So Disney's The Little Mermaid had just recently come out. By the time this video comes out, it'll probably be like a few months past. But it came out this year, and there was a lot of controversy on the movie. And just in general, with a lot of movies, there was a lot of controversy on Ariel being black. So Ariel, for anyone who has not seen it yet, was played by Halle Bailey, which if you don't know her, she is a singer-songwriter. I'm actually a big fan of her music. And I think she did a really great job. Halle did a great job portraying the part of Ariel. But again, just a lot of people were confused as to why she was suddenly black. And not just her. There has recently been an ongoing trend of film productions making their cast and main characters black in stories where originally they were white. And not just black, like other races too, as well. But specifically, there was like a lot of like black racial swapping going on right now in the film industry. And again, it's a pretty hot topic, especially now with it happening so frequently. Like every time you turn around, some character in some movie who was originally white is now black. And it's getting to a lot of people. I mean, people of all races. There are certain black people that are well, okay, it's kind of mixed when it comes to the black people. There are a lot of blacks who are like, yes, time to be inclusive, time to show us our skills, black magic, stuff like that, which is fine. That's perfectly fine if you feel that we are being included, because that's great. But there are a lot of other people, both blacks and other races, who feels strange. Like it's not really coming off the way that it should be. I know that there is a lot of white people who also express this as well, but because they're white, it looks a little bit wrong when they say it. So as a black person, I am going to defend them and say, no, I understand your frustration, and I think I understand why people are upset. Now, I'm not necessarily letting the racial swapping thing get to me. Like, it's not something that angers me, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go to sleep angry about it. I don't really care. At the end of the day, it's all films. But again, because of the constant controversy, I'm starting to see, or I understand why other people tend to get so upset about this whole racial swapping thing. So the short answer, before I get into a long rant, is because it doesn't feel like genuine inclusivity. I think that's really just the bottom line. It doesn't feel like they're genuinely trying to represent different racial communities because all the characters are recycled. Let me elaborate. The first time that this actually jumped out at me when they were starting to make certain characters black is actually with the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series on Nickelodeon. So after the old Ninja Turtle series that aired in 2012, they recently made a new one on Nickelodeon. I forgot how many years ago, but they made a new series. And we watched one episode, and all of a sudden we see this black girl. And then someone says April to her. And I'm like, hold up. That's not April. April was always, in the history of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this redheaded white girl, and a lot of times she was a news reporter. Her age would vary, but most of the time she was like late teenager or like, early adult or something like that. And she was white. So seeing this black girl being called April, it was weird. It was like, that's not the April we know and love. And again, it's not something that I'm like furious about, upset about, like, okay, she's black, but it's not like I'm mad that she's not white anymore. Like, of course I want to see more black faces in the film industry, but it's just because like the person could have been any race. Like, they didn't have to be black. There isn't any distinct qualities that ties them to their ethnicity or their race. They're just black, or they're just Asian, or they're just another race, and it doesn't really have any distinct qualities, which doesn't really make it significant. It's just like they're just another person. So going back to The Little Mermaid, again, Ariel is black, or now in the newest movie, Ariel is black, right? But Ariel being black didn't really change their character or bring anything more to her character. She was just black Ariel. Besides the dreadlocks that she had in her hair, which were very pretty, by the way, and I did like that touch because it does bring in a little bit more black culture, but that's it. It was just her hair and nothing else. The same things go for her sisters too. If you notice in the movie, all of her sisters, well, the 7 daughters of King Trident or whatever, they were all different races, which did catch me off guard when I first saw it, because it was like, okay, the dad is white, Ariel's black, okay, could be, adopted relationship, could have had a black mom, all that type of stuff. Like, it's not that bizarre. But then you got all these other daughters with all these other ethnicities and races, and it's like he's either adopting all of them, kidnapping all of them from different parts of the world, or he's just straight up hooking up with like every fish under the sea. Now, of course, upon doing research, I did notice that there is a theory that King Triton's 7 daughters actually come from different parts of the seas, the 7 seas, and they all rule a sea somewhere in the world. In a fictional world, by the way, it's not the real world, but there is a map like online that you can find where the 7 daughters rule different parts of that fictional sea. So it would make sense that they would be different races, I guess, because they're from, they're ruling different seas or whatever. But still, it didn't really make a difference in their character. First of all, they all had like 2 lines. They weren't really that prominent in the story anyway. And then again, it's like nothing really changed about them. You saw them for like 5 seconds, they said 2 lines, and then they were gone. When you take a character that already has a personality and a story to them, changing the color of their skin doesn't really make a difference. And I know that's the argument. A lot of people are like, okay, well, we're just changing the color of their skin. What's the problem? That is the problem. That's why people are upset, because what difference does it make? There's basically no effort in actually making the character. It's just, there's the character, but then we're just slapping another skin color on them. And this goes for a lot of different shows and movies that have race swapping, and that's how everyone feels about it. For example, take Velma into consideration. It was a new show on HBO that recently came out. I haven't watched it personally. Based on the reviews, it didn't do that well. I'm not taking the actual story into consideration, but obviously a lot of the backlash came from just the fact that all the main characters were a different race. Completely different. Velma is Indian American, Shaggy is African American, and Daphne is Asian American. Now, of course, it's likely they probably knew they were going to get backlash for this, which is why they did it, because controversy is good for business. Like, even though everybody hates the show and it has such a bad rating, they're still coming out with a season 2 because of how much attention it got, and people were watching it regardless of them not liking it, just because there was so much controversy going on. So either way, it's still good for business, which is another reason why I don't like to get caught up in these types of things, because like, okay, this is what they want. Like, they clearly want the attention. And then there's times where the ethnicity and the race does matter, like if you're making a historical film. So there was recently another TV show, series, or whatever, called Queen Charlotte, who is based off of the real historical person, Queen Charlotte, who was white. But this Queen Charlotte is Black. And again, go figure, there was a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people being like, why is she Black? Like, doesn't make any sense. And a lot of other people being like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a TV show. Like, you can't say that now. Like, sure, you want to say that about Ariel because it's a fictional story, fine. You want to say that about Scooby-Doo because they're all fictional, fine. This is historical. This is supposed to be true, or at least to some extent it's supposed to be realistic. So having a Black person play a white person, and where in the times that it actually happened and all that history was a thing, there was no way Black people were even part of royalty or even a part of the upper class in that type of way. You could see why people are starting to be confused. And while reading comments under like certain YouTube shorts and things like that, or what people were saying, people were trying to make different comparisons, different things, and be like, okay, y'all are just saying that because it's Black, because you're being like, oh, we want to be more inclusive, let's make this person Black who used to be white. What if a white person played Frederick Douglass? I don't think that would be a good look. Everyone would be upset about that. And going back to Disney, okay, what if Pocahontas was white? What if Mulan was Black? Especially when it comes to something so specific to culture, it does matter. Like, race does matter. So let's give another example and take one of the most beloved children's shows of all time. I know she was definitely one of my favorite TV shows as a kid. And even now, let's be real here, I still love watching Dora. But it's Dora the Explorer. So Dora, for anybody who does not know or never heard of the show, is a children's show on Nick Jr. It's about a little Hispanic girl, and she's going around talking to animals and having adventures. But along the way, she's teaching us about her Hispanic culture and her language, teaching us Spanish, bringing us on her journeys with her and teaching us different things about her culture. Like, this is our cultural dance. This is our cultural food. This is what we like to eat and things like that. Like, it's embedded into who she is as the person that she is. So imagine one day, Nick Jr. just comes out and is like, oh, a new Dora series is coming out. And everyone's all excited and ready, and we're sitting down, we turn on the TV, and Dora's black. You get what I'm saying? Like, it means a lot more if there's culture and history and all of that embedded into a character. And then you really couldn't race swap because it just wouldn't make any sense. But because all the characters that are race swapping really doesn't have any ties with anything about their race, you can just slap another color onto their skin. And that's what we're saying. It's very lazy. Like, it doesn't really add anything to the character themselves. Like I said before, people would get upset if people who were originally portrayed by black characters changed and was a white character. But the idea is that people aren't getting upset just because the characters look different, just because a person is a different race. It's like, oh no, they're black, or oh no, they're Asian, or oh no, they're this, they're that. It's like that's not really the issue. So people who aren't getting why other people might be a little upset or annoyed that every character is just race swapping, it's like we're not, or people aren't trying to be petty or just find little things wrong with certain things. And it also doesn't technically mean that a film or a TV show isn't good just because they were race swapped. I mean, like I said, Little Mermaid was okay. It was a good movie. I think Halle did a great job playing her part. She did a very good job. We're not trying to dump on films just because they have different races playing as different characters. It's because we see through the fact that it's just not genuine. It's just meant to be inclusive and just be politically correct. Like, okay, we want to add more people into our films. It just feels like a really lazy way to be represented. If you want to make certain characters black, Indian American, Asian American, whatever, then just make a new story. It can't be that difficult. Like, why are we recycling characters and popular TV shows and movies, but then just slapping a different race onto the person? Like, again, it holds no meaning then. If you can just do that and swap them out, then the character really doesn't have any depth to them. We want to feel included by having our own stories and not just being slapped onto another face and being like, oh, here, you're represented just by being seen. It's like, does it really matter then? In other words, we want to be more than the color of our skin. We want to be black.